everybody, Adam Cardinal and company team at HomeSmart, back at Shamrock Home Loans with TMF, Meghan the leader, and we are here to go over the clear to close and closing day info on your loan. Let's start here. Coming in, what does it look like? What's happening when you're taking that package now and you're submitting it for the clear to close?
So, I mean, that's very exciting on your end because that means that you've given us everything that processing and underwriting has previously asked for. Our internal processors have looked at it prior to it going to the underwriter, and they've signed off on it, and they've like, yeah, this looks good. And we're putting your loan in for that final review with underwriting. And then ideally, they give us a clear to close once they're done looking at your file.
Yeah, nice. So how long would we receive the clear to close? What's that time span as far as you'll receive the clear to close? How many days typically in advance of actually closing?
So our goal is 48 hours in advance to give you time to get scheduled with the attorney, take a day off of work if you have to. On our end, once we've got all the documents and submit it, it's usually looked at by the underwriter the next business day. It depends a little bit on volume, but they're really, really good at prioritizing those files because they understand that you guys probably have movers lined up. Maybe you're selling a house and we need to stay on track with those dates.
Yep. So previously in the transaction, the buyers would have received a commitment letter.
Yes.
And now we're going to be getting a clear to close. What's the difference between a commitment letter and then the clear to close?
So the commitment is your actual loan approval. If you look at your purchase and sales contract between yourself and the seller, there's two very important dates on there. There's your commitment date, your mortgage contingency date, and then your closing date. So your mortgage contingency means that your loan has been internally approved. You've given us enough documents, the appraisal's in, the title is in, where we're like, hey, we're 99% sure this is going to go through, barring you quitting your job or buying a car or something like that. Usually you're in the home stretch at that point. Your commitment means we actually don't need anything else from you. And that's really when we schedule the closing and everything for you.
Yeah, I normally equate when I have to explain it to buyers who might not understand the processes that you may have a pre-approval. A pre-approval is similar to an engagement ring. And then when you get the commitment's the wedding ring. Here we go, we're going down the aisle and we're going to do it. So it's that much of a difference in a step of that full-on, like hey, we're going
Very
in.
committed.
All right, so you issue that clear to close. Do you call them? Do you email them? What do they expect when they're going to receive that?
Both. So obviously we're going to call and let you know because I'm sure you're waiting by your phone for that. So we'll definitely call you. We do email you as well. If you're hooked up to the app, it will automatically send a generated email once the underwriter has done their stuff because that's tied to our actual mortgage system. So yeah, you get notified just a whole bunch of ways.
Yeah. And they're going to be, the attorneys will help in scheduling, and obviously what we do for our team, we assist with scheduling so that the buyers and sellers aren't, too many people get in the pot, make a mess. So typically we have one team member handle all the scheduling for everything. So there's a final closing disclosure that goes out, right? With all their numbers and info. So what does that look like and what does that entail?
So the final closing disclosure goes out once we have the clear to close. Your initial closing disclosure goes out ideally 3 days prior because there's some guidelines in place where we can't clear to close you unless you've signed that 3 days prior. Your initial one has our best guess on the numbers, but the attorneys haven't been in touch to do final prorations. So those numbers do move a little bit. Your final closing disclosure is the done deal, absolute, no numbers are moving, this is what you're going to sign on closing day. And that gives you, your exact payment, it shows your interest rate, it shows, most importantly, how much money you have to bring to closing so you can get your bank check. Got all that information on there.
Yeah, excellent. But you will not only send that to them, you not only send it to them, but you would also call them with the numbers so they know exactly what's good. Because I know that those forms can be daunting, even for seasoned realtors. Sometimes we're looking at these extended settlement statements and the numbers are daunting.
Yeah, they're a little intimidating. There's a lot of numbers on there. So we'll call you and we'll go through it with you as well. And then the attorney goes through it with you as well on the actual closing date. So you've got a ton of opportunities to ask questions. Even after closing, if you had a question on it, you could always call us and be like, hey, I'm not sure what this is. Why did I pay that? We're more than happy to go through it with you.
Yeah, excellent. So now it's closing time. Let's say it's that closing day. We've completed the walkthrough. We are going, because you're entitled to that in case you don't know, you're entitled to go back to the house again. You make sure it's still standing. Everything that was supposed to be there is there. Who's going to be at the closing table typically?
So the sellers potentially could be there, which is nice. If you had a good transaction, you get to meet the people you're buying your home from. The attorneys on both sides. So the seller has an attorney and you're going to have an attorney. Your realtors are generally there. And then depending on the scheduling conflicts, myself or one of my team members might go as well.
Yeah. I like when one of your team members comes.
We got out of it with COVID.
Yes, we got to get back to that.
I know. I like in person.
What should they expect to bring to closing? I know that if there's more additional funds they have to bring, but what else should they prepare to bring to closing?
Yeah, so you want to have your driver's license or some sort of photo state-issued ID. You can bring a pen if you want to, but the attorneys will have those for you. And then the money that you need. So that can get wired in advance, but generally people bring a cashier's check, a bank check to that. You can't bring a personal check, unfortunately. So you're going to bring a bank check and you're going to sign that over to the attorneys once you're done your final walkthrough and whatnot. We want to make sure, obviously, you're happy with the house prior to releasing the funds over to them.
Yeah, excellent. Post-closing, so people sometimes think, hey, we bought the house. The people were great, but hey, you know, they're gone now, and you know, it was nice doing business with them. That's not how you operate. So, so tell us a little bit about the post-closing with TMF and Shamrock. What does that look like?
Yeah, so you know, we do want to be involved after closing. You're going to have questions. You might get a tax bill and be unsure of whether that was included in your mortgage payment or not. Your mortgage payment could change because your taxes or insurance changed. We can talk about that with you. If rates go to 2% and there you can save just a ton of money, we're going to call you and go through that with you. But we don't want to just be a one-time lender and then you forget about us. We do want to stay in touch and celebrate, you know, big things that happen with you and you know, hopefully when you're ready to sell the house and buy the next one that you remember us.
Yeah, I love that, you know, your slogan is lenders for life, to stay connected with people, because it's not, real estate, believe it or not, is a customer service business. It's people that run it as a one and done and think of it as that are missing out on great people, great relationships, and great fun. So I really appreciate that you stay in contact with people. So in closing statements for the closing process for the buyer, what is a word of advice that off the top of your head that you would give to a buyer? Hey, it's closing day, you just walked away with the keys. What's something you would want to say to them? Besides the obvious, hey, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Just in closing for this segment, what is the most important thing to remember for a buyer when you receive a clear to close?
So the most important thing I would say was, so when we call you and we tell you that we're clear to close and you're very, very excited, and let's say your closing is 72 hours from now, you know, it's Wednesday and you're closing on Friday. Don't do anything with your finances still. Just because we verbally told you you're clear to close doesn't mean that on our end we're not still working on your file. You have to do verbal verifications of employment, so we're going to call your job and we're going to make sure that you're still working. We are going to do what they call credit refreshes. So, you know, if you go the next day and you finance a car, we're going to find out because there's going to be an inquiry on your credit. So really my biggest piece of advice would be get your keys in your hand, sign the documents, and then do whatever you want. Just don't do it prior to actually signing your closing documents and, you know, getting your keys. At that point, we're out of your business, but there is a couple days generally between getting your clear to close and the actual closing date, and we still have to verify stuff in the meantime.
And even that, you might have a closing day on a Friday afternoon, and City Hall might be closed, or we might not be fully funded. And actually, in actuality, you had the physical in-person closing on a Friday afternoon, but the loan might not be going through till Monday. So don't splurge over the weekend either. Like, wait till that business day and the house is actually on record down at Town Hall. Well, Meghan, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
this. Again, we really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So you've been watching the Buyer 101 series sponsored by TMF at Shamrock Home Loans, led by Meghan. Adam Cardinal, Cardinal and Company team at HomeSmart, your guy in our eye for all your real estate needs. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.